How are you? How's it going? Let's start with some information. We're seeing this in Iran. Traffic jams are forming. This is the southwest part of Iran, where there are reports that civilians are rushing to try to help the Revolutionary Guard capture the downed American pilot. This situation is taking a dramatic turn because they claim that the pilot has already been rescued, but it's possible that US troops are still inside Iran, obviously trying to hide from the militias and also from people who might be helping that regime. In the end, the images show what's happening there.
Well, here we see people who have gathered outside a hospital where supposedly there is personnel from the Revolutionary Guard who have been taken to that hospital. During these events, there was crossfire between the US rescue team and these Iranian groups hunting the American pilot.
Yes, look, if we go to the topic, if we look at the map, it's this area. Look, where the F-15 plane crash happened, it was around this southern area, right? And then the other plane, the A-10, went down on this side in the ocean. It almost made it. The plane was basically collapsing, and he managed to eject himself in this area so he wouldn't fall inside Iranian territory. So that's why the A-10 was rescued from this side. The two helicopters that were flying to rescue the second F-15 pilot rescued one. They pick him up here, take him away, and then they start getting shot at, and these helicopters almost go down. They barely make it to Kuwait with one rescued pilot. But today they sent large numbers of helicopters and US soldiers to this whole area again to search and try to rescue him since it got dark. They sent them to the area, right? That's the protocol to rescue him, and according to reports, they've already found him. They already have him with them, and now what they're trying to do at this moment is to get out of Iran. Well, obviously this is developing, it's ongoing. Let's get into the details because this was reported by a journalist, I'll check by the way, reports that are said to be credible because I insist this is, constantly changing. They indicate there was an intense combat operation in which the weapons systems officer, the WSO of the F-15, that is the, let's say, second pilot who was in this plane, was reportedly rescued, recovered alive inside Iran. Just imagine, in the middle of a tremendous search by the Iranians as well. According to national security journalist and former Navy SEAL Jack Murphy, he claimed that the serviceman was evading capture on the ground. So just imagine all that time. He was on the run, right? That must have been intense. The rescue forces managed to reach his position before he was captured. At the rescue site, there was a huge shootout, which indicates that there was a direct confrontation. If confirmed, the US Special Forces would still be inside Iran trying to get him out of that area. This would imply one of the most risky operations that the US military has ever carried out inside Iran. They would also show that at this moment, the rescue capability of the United States is strong, however you want to put it, but Iran's response capability is quite dangerous in that area. We have to remember that it was the planes, the helicopters, the A-10 and the F-15 when it had been said that there was total air control, although later it was clarified and it was said that total control was only in some areas. But, the point is that this event will surely have consequences. Let's also get into the details of other matters. These are developing, so we'll comment on them as we go. If you're just joining the live stream, go ahead and like it, share it, help us spread this live report. And at the end, like every Saturday, we'll also chat a bit about movie and series recommendations, something we always do on weekends. You can also see this image. This is an attack that happened in a building over there in Kuwait, right?
Exactly. There are some attacks happening right now from Iran towards Kuwait. And, they're talking about this impact. There are several people injured in this case.
We'll have to wait and see if it's confirmed what time it happened or how it went, right? To see if this is the current one. But what Arab media have already been reporting is that there were attacks in Kuwait. And then some of these videos started to appear, like this one, which is said to have involved several ministries. Mind you, this is in Kuwait City, where injuries are already being reported. The attacks from Iran towards Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and so on. They continue to this day. This hasn't stopped. And, well, the pressure is also tremendous.
On this topic, it's already being reported that Kuwait state media are warning that the Ministry of Finance was attacked in the office complex. And, well, material damage has been reported, but no fatalities. But the oil sector complex, the Ministry of Oil, and the CEE, the oil corporation in Kuwait, have also been attacked. In that case, no injuries have been reported either. So, well, to confirm, or rather to clarify, there are no injuries from any attack in Kuwait at this time?
Well, so this is going to keep changing. As I said, it's developing. You can see huge explosions there. Listen to this. Surely, reports say this would be a massive attack taking place over Tehran. That too, well, there are reports. Donald Trump stated, regarding these attacks, we're seeing that several military leaders of the Iranian regime may have been eliminated during a massive attack in the capital of Iran. That's what we know so far.
Well, in this post, this video, in fact, is shared by Donald Trump on Truth Social, and it is said some media outlets report that up to 50 important figures of the Iranian regime may have lost their lives. And, well, what Trump shares is this, that many of the Iranian military leaders who have led poorly and recklessly have been eliminated along with many others in this massive attack on Tehran. This is what is being reported today. Well, when the clock starts ticking, this 48-hour deadline that Donald Trump gives again, because we have to remember that he had already given a 48-hour deadline, then extended it to 10 days, and now he sets 48 hours again.
Well, that's how things are right now there in the capital of Iran, right? These are operations that have been spreading. Also within all of this, General Ali Abdouamali Ali Abadi, spokesperson for the central headquarters, described the warning or threat from the United States as a powerless, nervous, unbalanced, and stupid action. That's what this general commented. And look, this is also a message that the spokesperson for the Revolutionary Guard gives it. Let's listen to him, where he talks about Iraq. Now it turns out they're buddies with Iraq. Come on, listen to this.
And here we announce that brother Iraq is exempt from any restriction we have imposed in the Strait of Hormuz, since those restrictions only apply to hostile countries. Because we feel a deep respect for the national sovereignty of Iraq, since you are a nation that bears on its chest the scars and consequences of the American occupation. Your struggle against the United States deserves appreciation and respect. You have demonstrated in practice that you are a nation that does not submit or surrender to the system of domination. And that is a source of pride and honor for you.
Well, that's part of the messages he's sending this time. A really remarkable figure who they've claimed to have eliminated several times, but he's still around, as they say, still causing trouble, right? There's also this message from Netanyahu, which says the following.
I promised you that we would continue crushing the terrorist regime in Tehran, and that's exactly what we're doing. After destroying 70% of their steel production capacity, which they use as raw material for weapons against us, today we attacked their petrochemical factories. These two things are their money machine and the engine of the terrorist war against us and against the whole world. We'll keep crushing them as I promised. Happy holidays.
It's part of Prime Minister Netanyahu's message, isn't it? It's also a time of Jewish holidays over there in Israel, a topic that also drew attention. And right now we're going to look at other important matters regarding these messages from different leaders, but let's move on to other topics. And we'll come back to the situation with Iran and Israel and the United States, which are huge topics. Let's move on to another subject. I think these observances are important. And as we are
so far from Earth and looking back at, the beauty of creation, I think that for me, one of the really important personal perspectives that I have up here is I can really see Earth as one thing. And, when I read the Bible and I look at all of the amazing things that were done for us.
Well, that's a message from astronaut Victor Glover, the pilot of the Artemis 2 mission, who from space says that being so far from Earth gives him perspective on the beauty of creation. a religious message, a message we could say with a spiritual touch as well. Well, considering that these are important days, obviously because of Good Friday, all these matters that are important, obviously, in Christianity, and he says that when he looks at Earth, even if you don't see it that way, it's also a ship, and it's a ship that you are also traveling on. And he says, I'm on a ship, you're on a ship too, and you are just as special as we are for being on this side. Well, a message, honestly, a very beautiful one, very interesting from the astronaut, which isn't the kind of thing you'd normally hear, right? And suddenly, well, it's not that science is at odds with religion. Obviously, it doesn't have to be that way. And obviously, well, it's a message. What stands out right now? Also, within this message, it has been revealed that one of the ship's bathrooms might be malfunctioning. It might smell like something's burning. I don't know if someone ate something they shouldn't have, but someone ate something really spicy. But anyway, that bathroom over there smells like something is burning. I'm sure they'll report it. Well, the thing is that they're obviously worried about it. This restroom is an issue, and it's something that caught people's attention too. Well, the thing is, well, it's about the spaceship.
I think the toilet cost about $28 million, which was a really controversial topic, but well, you see.
Also, from what I know, they wear diapers.
Yes, besides, in fact, they had to use diapers for longer than usual because of the toilet issue.
Well, the thing is, that's the issue. We'll see what is said about this toilet. The truth is, well, no, well, supposedly, I mean, it's not that it's broken, but it smelled weird, right? It supposedly smelled like something was burning. Well, we'll see what is said about that, but it's interesting, obviously, the Artemis 2 project as well. Since we're on other topics, we'll get back to Iran and Iraq, which involve a whole lot of other issues. Notice that there were these long lines over there in Russia. Let's take a look. By the way, it caught my attention that among the long lines, there's one of these, what do they call it? A terrier. A terrier. Look, a Russian terrier.
But calm, why?
A Russian terrier? No, what do you mean calm? Just look, it has its ears, they're there. Does it have a tail? Yes, it has a tail and everything. This one, a Russian terrier, is going to leave. Well, these people are standing in line at the Russian government's complaints office, right? There they are, there are the people, the little papers they're carrying. Why are they complaining? Because the internet has been getting cut off, and well, so they go and complain. And there's a government complaints office that has 10, 20 service windows. Do you know how many are open right now? One. Just one service window? Only one service window. And well, a lot of people send their complaints in other ways with messages, etc. But what caught people's attention, aside from the lines and the fact that they at least have the right to complain in that sense, not to protest but to complain, is that they sent the counter-terrorism forces to the area. I mean, obviously over there, look in the background, according to what the people themselves report. The young guys got freaked out because the anti-terrorist unit from the Ministry of the Interior started to arrive. They stood there watching people from a distance. Well, nothing major happened, luckily. As far as I know, there are still blocks on WhatsApp and Telegram, although we'll talk in a moment about what the owner of Telegram says, because it seems like the Russians always find ways to get around things. But anyway, let's move on to other matters. Let's talk about other important topics as well. Before we get to the really important stuff, there's an interesting image that shows just how well these, what are they called, work?
Roomba, the cleaning robots?
Right? The cleaning robots, right? I mean, they threw some dirt at it. I don't know how they did it, but there it is. Cleaning until everything is perfect, right? Also, another image that catches our attention today. Well, this has been circulating for a couple of days. A nice job from Carmen.
Say hello to the all-around employee.
Yes, say hello. Look, let's go back a bit.
Good morning, good morning.
Say hello, see? He shows up, comes in. Same routine every day, right? He grabs 7, so fine, let's just give it to him.
A little bread?
No, I didn't see what it was before. Now I even zoomed in, look. It's a
cookie. It's a cookie. She could see it, she's taking it out.
It's from your team.
Huh? It's a cookie.
It's from Team Cookies. It's from your team. It's a cookie.
Let's begin. Do you prefer Team Cookie or Team Little Bell?
I'd say it's a chocolate chip cookie, but well, every day she comes for one, for a little pastry and a coffee. I mean, she gets a coffee. No, seriously, really? I mean, she gets a coffee. And the debtor hasn't paid yet, I mean, up until now?
Do you know it? The workers from the design area,
They would have to pay him because, well, that was his land. It was his territory where the hotels are now. But anyway, it's really good. It's really good. He arrives like that, and another nice one is kind of outside watching everything that's going on. I think he's teaching him like, look, you arrive, you greet her, you grab your pastry,
and there's no problem.
and there's no problem, man. All right, let's move on to other important matters as well. Or rather, getting back to the serious topics, let's look at this image, which is part of these movements. We saw a little while ago that there was some traffic in this area in the south of Iran, where basically what they claim is that there was a kind of situation, a war situation, one rescue operation and another capture operation. Wouldn't this pilot have been a trophy the Iranians wanted? A pilot who would have been useful to them from a war propaganda standpoint? They would have said, look, here is the pilot. And, well, they would have sold him back to the United States for a very high price, so to speak, right? But on the other hand, there is also a policy within the Pentagon that every soldier who is in the conflict has to be rescued, no matter what, even if it means risking more soldiers, even if it means risking helicopters, planes, or whatever. The mission is that as long as you know he's alive, you're going to go rescue him at all costs. So, well, according to reports, he has been rescued. It's not a confirmed issue because, as I said, it's something that's still developing. Well, it's hard for this to be confirmed immediately, although there are some pretty serious reports that claim that's how it happened. Especially this journalist, Boina Verde, who specializes in war topics and who, well, has also revealed this situation. Let's move on to these matters. Let's move on to these topics. Oh, we were missing this image, which is quite interesting. This comes from China, where they've been showing that now the Chinese have one or several TV channels, but they're specialized for dogs. I mean, they're channels.
Here on YouTube as well.
Yes, there are some here too.
Yes, there is music for dogs when you're not alone.
No, well, there it is. Here are the images. There's the park. Look how, yes.
No, yes, they do interact.
Yes, they interact. You can clearly see some things interest them, if that's ever happened to you. Dogs, there are things that interest them, there are things that bother them. I mean, come on, it's also a really big topic. But anyway, let's move on to other matters. Several important matters regarding this whole Iran issue. Let's go with that. Let's move on to other matters, because a message, a reaction from Donald Trump has already been reported. Donald Trump didn't like at all that today the Iranians said that not only will they have control over the Strait of Hormuz, but that it's going to be that way forever. In other words, this is not going to change anymore. If the war changes, they will control the Strait of Hormuz from now on. They will charge a toll, and anyone they consider an enemy simply won't be allowed to pass. Donald Trump has reacted. What did he say? What has he said?
Well, the Revolutionary Guard. The guard on that day, no.
No, about Trump. What has Trump been saying? Basically, he's thinking that they will give or will be giving 48 hours. In what is supposed to be, well, as we were saying this morning, are they moving or preparing attacks in this area where they claim this has already escalated to another level? Missiles are being prepared, right? Missiles that in theory would be long range. Which, by the way, they already fired some of those missiles, 700 of them, in the first 2 days, but they haven't been used again according to reports from inside Iran. Other types of missiles have been used, but the ones that require the planes to be really close. That's also why there was this incident with the F-15 or the attack, the downing of the F-15. Because those planes have to go in to be able to operate towards what is, well, enemy territory, but with their missiles. Basically, if we look at it from the point of view of Google Maps, so to speak, right? And look, if we use the measurement tool, let's go measure the distance. Let's pick a random place, right? Check out the distance. Let's put it here. Those can fly up to 1,000 kilometers. Imagine, you could attack, well, not you, but both sides, right? They could attack Iran from 1,000 kilometers away. So you're going to fire towards Tehran? Look, all the places you could fire from, you could be in Iraq, right? In fact, you could already be close to Israel and from there launch attacks towards different points. This would be the range of these missiles, allowing for much more security. They didn't like at all the fact that these planes are being shot down. Obviously an issue that, well, now there is already a strong reaction.
Also, it was very noticeable today that Donald Trump didn't go to Mar-a-Lago. That's something he does every weekend, whether he's going to attack Iran or whatever. He always goes, and this weekend he didn't.
You know, I didn't have that information because even in the worst crises, he goes to Mar-a-Lago. I mean, he never skips his little weekend vacations, but this time it's noticeable. I didn't know that.
Yes, there are rumors, just rumors, that he was taken to a hospital, while others say they were just discussing what to do in Iran. The thing is, what is real is that there is evidence he didn't go to Mar-a-Lago, which by itself is something that draws attention.
Exactly. We're waiting for the rescue of this second pilot to be fully confirmed because even though there are serious reports about the rescue, it's still not fully confirmed. According to this report, the Special Forces soldiers who rescued him would still be inside Iran. In other words, they're with him, with the rescued pilot, but still inside Iran, and obviously I don't think they're going to want to fly. I imagine now they're going on foot. Well, I mean, what I'm thinking is, they rescue him. Because if not, they would have already left. If the report was that, right? They would already be out, they would already be in Kuwait or Iraq or some distant area. Well, that's a topic that, where is it? Where is the area? It's in this place. All of this is here right next to Iraq, so it would be relatively easy to return to this area. That's also why it's been complicated for them. What's it called? For the Iranians themselves, the rescue. If this had happened near Tehran or in some other areas where the Revolutionary Guard has more control, it would have been much more complicated. Let's say that getting away from the danger zone, I imagine, was the last decision made before the plane went down. That's something we assume because the same thing happened with the A-10. The A-10, which was also shot down, or at least that's what is claimed, the A-10 was also flying in this area. Apparently, what the A-10 was doing was providing support to the other plane, the F-15. So there was an F-15 attacking and an A-10, let's say, was protecting this plane, apparently from drones. And then besides that, up above, at another altitude, there were other planes, also other jets, other fighters. So it was like there were different levels of planes. The A-10 also gets shot at, and according to reports, the pilot manages to get out before the plane goes down and is rescued in this area. He ejects from the plane when there was no other option in this area. So he manages to end up on the side. Far enough away so the Iranians couldn't catch or capture him. Now there's an image
of what's happening. Well, what happened just a few moments ago in this search area where you can see how they're already using, intense attacks. In fact, they report that 4 people may have lost their lives in these clashes.
This is reported by Fightux News, and this is a report released by Open Source Intel, which is an intelligence report. Let's see what it says. Long live. He has already played. Well, that's part of what we're hearing. There are already several videos circulating similar to this one where you can see exchanges of gunfire. Things got intense because apparently it was the special forces against those who were trying to chase him.
Who would be regular forces, some dressed as civilians, as has already been reported. Well, this image can't be shown, but they already have images where they arrive and discover the bodies of their comrades who apparently lost their lives to guided rockets from an A-10. An A-10 is launching these guided rockets.
There's an A-10 flying in this area to protect, let's say, where the soldiers are.
I imagine it's exactly to protect them. Well, they were launching this, and several regular soldiers who were dressed as civilians may have lost their lives.
Well, this is in the far south, in the very south of...
It's called Dedas, from the area in the southern region of Iran.
Okay, this is it. So let's see. Let's look it up in the map right before we move to another area so we can locate exactly where these attacks are happening. And then we'll move on to other topics, which, by the way, are nearby. According to Iran, they report to the UN that there may be radiation leaks due to the attack that took place today at the nuclear plant. Let's first see where this area is, because there's talk of a possible leak. It's not a matter of investigation. Even today, they already said there was no leak or that they haven't detected any leak. But anyway, let's see if first we can find the place to see if that's the case. No, I can't find it, but let's see if... Well, what else? In the meantime, I'll keep looking for it. In the meantime, no.
But let's turn to what Iran is saying. Iran is currently alerting the UN about a risk of radiation after today's attacks by the United States and Israel near the Bushehr nuclear power plant.
Well,
a nuclear reactor in operation has supposedly just been located in the area that could be affected by the potential conflict. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Iran has sent a letter to the Secretary General of the UN. You say that if they manage to contain the situation, it would be a narrowly avoided incident, but if not, it will stop being a Gulf War and become something completely different. That is Iran's statement to the UN.
Well, so they're not confirming the radiation, right?
But let's say it was very close just now, so I suppose that in the next few hours they'll confirm exactly what happened in this area.
Well, this is the area. This is where the conflict is happening, where the exchanges of gunfire are taking place, right? Let me see if I can move a little bit. Well, is it this Dajes area or the area? Well, this is where the attack is happening. Let's see if we can see. Between this area and the border with Iraq, which would be like a safe zone, in theory, that's more or less what they are. To be honest, It's not 100 kilometers. It's just showing incorrectly here. Let's delete the measurement and set it again. Let's measure it from here exactly to the border. There it is, 200, 213 kilometers, 218 kilometers. That's the distance they have to cover in case, as they've said, they're being rescued. Now they'll have to go, I suppose. They're not going to walk 200 kilometers, so at some point they'll have to be rescued with one of those planes if they're not.
They're bringing the helicopters. In fact, there was an image. Well, it was a photograph of one of these helicopters flying, and the sound was what they managed to capture. But anyway, that's what would be used, right?
Exactly. So, well, surely at some point they'll be participating, they'll be navigating this area until they're in a safe zone, because right now it's a hotbed. They'll have to get to safe zones, and this could take hours. In some cases, it could take up to 10 hours, but at least that pilot wouldn't be alone anymore, which is the big question people had when they heard about this case, right? Well, this would be an issue because if they had captured him, you would have found out immediately since the Iranians would have shown him off. But at this point, by now, with more support, he would have been rescued, right? If he was hurt, the soldiers would already be caring for him. If he was missing food or water, that would also be arriving by now, since now he is with the Special Forces soldiers.
We have to remember that the Special Forces soldiers also have medical training.
Exactly, medical training. And in theory, they should know perfectly well how to move in that area because they get some training. Like courses on how to move, how to understand the cultures, where they're going to be, how to talk to them, certain things that are, well, logical. And within this, let's also move on to other related topics.
Well, today Iran has also issued a warning to the United States about what would happen if attacks on infrastructure occur. We have to remember that Donald Trump has given 48 hours to attack what would be energy targets. And well, there have already been attacks on what would be the first official attack on something civilian, which is the bridge. And well, today Ali Abdullah, who is the commander, stated that any attack on infrastructure will be met with devastating strikes and continuous attacks against the United States and its allies. This is in coordination with the Iranian army's operations. In other words, the Iranian army is already participating. It's important to remember that there are two armies. One is the Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is the one we see every day taking the lead, always making these threats. And the other is the Iranian army, the one that's hardly ever mentioned, which basically just guards the border. They mostly just talk a lot. Well, now there is coordination between these two groups. And it is pointed out that if the aggression happens, all the infrastructure used by the United States Army, as well as the Zionist region, will be subjected to devastating and continuous attacks without any limitations. He has also stated that Donald Trump has described this as having generated aggressive and warlike events, and said that these threats are a gesture of desperation after their defeats.
That's part of the messaging coming out right now. Notice that one detail that is starting to cause concern is what is happening after the conflicts, what is being seen in the rise of oil prices, which is no longer just about tomorrow. I suspect that in the afternoon, since tomorrow is Sunday, right? Later in the afternoon, when the Asian markets are opening, I suspect that oil is going to be above 120 or so. That's what I suspect, right? I could be wrong though. Hopefully it won't be that much, but I suspect it's going to skyrocket because of everything that happened this weekend. Right now, there's already a fuel shortage that's forcing Italy to ration supplies. At least BP is rationing supplies because there's not enough fuel for the flights. So they're only allowing ambulance flights, government flights, and long-distance flights. From now at least until April 9th because there's not enough fuel. They call it airplane gas or something like that.
Jet fuel?
Jet fuel, right? Well, there's not enough jet fuel right now in some parts of Italy, according to reports, and it's going to be limited just to emergencies and things like that. Yeah, that's an issue. Well, if this is happening in Italy, then what's happening in India? What's happening in Bangladesh? That's why in these countries already. The Philippines have also reported it exactly. I mean, the Philippines, Bangladesh, Indonesia, all those areas have been reporting incidents, protests, desperate people who, besides everything, take it out on those who did nothing, right? I mean, they didn't do anything. For example, they've taken it out on gas station attendants. And there are several reports that they've been killed, their lives taken because they didn't have gas for them. I mean, it's just so limited. Yes, and they say, no, you have to give it to me. They get even angrier, and there have been fights there, so it's causing quite a serious domino effect. Let's move on to other important matters. I was telling you a little while ago that there are protests in Russia and that people are angry because there's no internet, no social media, no WhatsApp, no Telegram. Although the Russians, for now, it seems they're adapting, at least some of them, quite a few.
Exactly. Well, like anyone in any country who's connected to the internet, if suddenly your government cuts it off, you might look for a way to get back online. And what they've been using, according to the founder of Telegram, is that 65 million Russians, according to this Pavel, have accessed Telegram because supposedly they can't get in thanks to VPNs. Despite the censorship from Vladimir Putin's government, some military influencers are already saying that it's basically a camp concentration in Russia because they can't have access to information. They can't work either.
Digital concentration camp.
And it has also caused disruptions at the National Bank. Basically, if you had money in your account, well, many of us are used to transferring, but right now you can't do it from your phone. You just can't. You also can't make payments, etc. And well, they haven't managed to stop the use of Telegram, a network that is super important, highly valued by Russians, because a lot of information is shared there, for example, about what's happening abroad, outside the country.
That's how they get information to really know what's going on. That's part of what is known. By the way, this issue also draws attention in Argentina. They reportedly expelled the main Iranian diplomat. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Argentina announced the expulsion of, let's see if we have the name here.
Here's the photo, actually.
from Mossad, Soltani, Tehrani, who already had to leave the country. This is in compliance with a resolution issued on Thursday that gives the Iranian diplomat 48 hours to leave that country.
He was seen at the airport with his whole family already leaving Argentina. At least they left, because we have to remember that in Lebanon they said they stayed there.
Yes. And supposedly, I mean, they made an agreement with the Lebanese government, but honestly, it did seem strange.
But the Lebanese government already said that it won't protect them. I mean, there won't be any diplomatic protection. They're going to take away several rights because, well, they're invading.
They're invading, so they're not considered diplomats anymore, right? That's the thing. And well, yes, also, I mean, there are already global events happening, right? It's no longer just an issue confined to the Middle East. No, this is already affecting other relations with other countries. Obviously, well, that's also part of the reactions. Let's move on to other interesting matters. Do you remember? A couple of days ago, the people at the Pentagon made several moves to fire or force some people to resign. In the case of this general, the Chief of Staff of the United States, who is the one overseeing any conflict anywhere in the world, he is the one who operates, the one who makes the most important decisions, and well, now it is known that he left a letter, obviously a key one, right?
Exactly. General Randy George, who is the former Chief of Staff of the United States Army, sent a farewell email where he states in rather strong words that American soldiers deserve to have brave and strong-willed leaders. This happened after he was basically fired by the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hedges, who asked for his resignation and immediate retirement. This was reported and communicated to the institution. The outgoing email attributed to George circulated online, and its authenticity was confirmed by CBS News because it had been circulating since yesterday, but there was no confirmation. And well, this US official told CBS that George sent the email to Driscoll that, by the way, Driscoll, who is the Undersecretary and Deputy Secretary of the Army, is one of the people Pete Hedges is afraid might replace him. And he's also on the list of people they want to fire.
Or he's stepping aside.
Right? And well, he says let me read you part of the letter. He says it's been a privilege to serve with you and lead the soldiers in support of our country. I know that all of you will continue to stay focused on the mission, innovating and tirelessly overcoming the bureaucracies that give our fighters what they need to win on the modern battlefield. Our soldiers are truly the best in the world. They deserve to have rigorous training and courageous, strong leaders. I have no doubt that all of you will continue to lead with courage, character, and determination. So, well, this person really caught everyone's attention today. The day before yesterday? Yes. So let's take a look at him.
Yes, they caught several people, including, well, Pam Bondi, the prosecutor, Christian Noma, as well, a few days ago. Now, well, the Chief of Staff, along with other generals who were also, let's say, removed from the Pentagon at a time of war. You say this is quite curious. By the way, these rumors are still circulating that Donald Trump was sent to a medical center. Let's see if it can be confirmed. Meanwhile, let's go to a topic that is generating a lot of controversy. In Russia, because this could even be spreading from China, there's an outbreak over there. Let's get into the details of what they know. Think that, well, there is a possible cover-up that might be taking place in Russia, right? A cover-up of an outbreak that they claim could be shaking this country and even the Chinese themselves. Authorities are talking about a kind of bacteria that, well, may have caused an epidemic among livestock in Siberia. Apparently, this was something Russia tried to cover up. This is causing a strong controversy because, well, the government claimed it was a minor infection, that it was nothing, called pasteurellosis. But veterinarians and journalists believe this could be a type of foot and mouth disease, a much more serious illness. The difference would be key. Pasteurellosis is controllable, but foot and mouth disease would force the culling of animals and could destroy meat exports. The first cases were first detected in the region in February in Ovorovisk. Farmers said they began reporting fever and unusual symptoms in their livestock. The authorities also ordered the mass slaughter of several cows from both large farms and even small farmers. Without clearly explaining the reason, they would arrive, take the cows, and eliminate them. Rural protests and arrests occurred because people were upset due to a lack of explanations. Journalists have reported that the government handled the crisis with a lot of secrecy, and there are suspicions that Russia might be hiding a fever outbreak, foot and mouth disease, hiding it from them since 2025 when this reportedly started. The same World Organization for Animal Health has been requesting an investigation and, well, for them to determine what's going on because in the end that meat is exported to the Middle East and also to China. If foot and mouth disease is confirmed, Russia could lose that status and suffer a major economic blow in meat exports. Kazakhstan, for example, has already partially banned the import of Russian meat, which could be the first sign that something is happening. There is secrecy, which has obviously generated a lot of very strange theories as well, which I prefer not to comment on right now because they are very absurd theories, but if any of that is confirmed, of course, we will be talking about it. But for now, what is known about this outbreak is what I'm mentioning, let's say, what has been more or less determined, because even with this, well, Russia has struggled to admit it, right? It's a problematic issue. Kazakhstan is already doing its part. Apparently, China is also making its own moves to prevent this from spreading. And, well, I think the borders with Russia in that area are going to be closed, and there are some images of these farmers who have had their cows taken away. They arrive wearing super sanitary suits. Sanitary, right? All completely covered. And, well, the lady doesn't want to let them take her cow away, obviously, right?
Yes, well, of course, many of them, for example, many only have 1 or 2 cows, and that's what they live off of, right?
That's what's being reported for now. First, we need to confirm these images. You know how these things go. But what we do know for sure is that the problem in Obrosky had already been going on since the end of 2025. Problems had already been reported, but they couldn't be confirmed. And well, now it seems that this has indeed caused the problem. We'll see if this can not only confirm the issue with the bacteria, if it's not something else.
Exactly. And well, in China, outbreaks of livestock disease are already being reported near the Russian regions. We have to remember that, well, they are neighboring countries and the mass slaughter of livestock has affected them. In China, border controls are being reinforced and livestock are being culled in the northwestern region of Xinjiang after a small outbreak of foot and mouth disease was detected there. And these measures are being taken amid concerns about cross-border spread after months. I mean, Russia has been dealing with this problem of mass culling for months where, well, they've tried to keep quiet about what it really is.
Just so you know, almost no one here talked about it until now, and people ask where I heard it. Several news agencies are already reporting it. Look, I'm seeing that on April 2nd, Reuters agency was already reporting it, right? They're already talking about it, right? Reuters on April 2nd was already reporting on these cases you're mentioning, right?
200,219 heads of cattle.
219 heads of cattle. Well, they've had to carry out culls in China too, which is obviously also a huge issue.
It's estimated that in Russia, just look at the number, in Russia, 90,000 heads of cattle have been culled in 9 regions since February of this year. That's quite a lot. And the analysis estimates that around 80% happened in a region called Altai. The Russian authorities have attributed this loss to rabies, pastoralosis, and other diseases they haven't even wanted to specify. But well, they still have a lot of habits from the USSR, don't they?
Yes, there's a lot of that urge to hide everything.
It will be found out. This isn't the 1940s.
And especially now, right? I mean, but well, it's a huge topic. It's been going around. They've controlled this information a lot, but the topic is already emerging. That's mainly because of the Iran issue, which has shifted attention elsewhere. But well, sooner or later, this whole issue was bound to come out, and images of the animal culls have even started to circulate. Well, that's also part of what we experience. Well, we've spent years living in Asia, Europe, America. The culling of thousands of birds. Yes. Thousands of birds because of this avian flu issue, right? Well, when it has to happen, it has to happen. And no, well, you just control it and that's it, right? And then you move on. But well, that's how it is, right? Suddenly there are outbreaks, and that's how it goes for other important matters too. Important.
Well, classified documents have started to leak that reveal there is a military agreement between Russia and Iran to supply Iran with advanced Russian weaponry until 2027. In these leaked documents, they show that Russia could supply Su-35 aircraft along with air-to-air and air-to-ground missiles. These missiles are designed to destroy enemy aircraft. The main targets, obviously, are Israel and the United States. The contract also includes the Ka-38, Ka-31, Ka-73, and Ka-77. All of these missiles are used in aerial combat as well as in precision strikes. And the deliveries also include components like engines, warheads, and propulsion systems, which are scheduled between 2023, which has already passed, and 2027. Some of these could give them the potential. With the weapons they are supplying, have supplied, or could supply, they could reach all the way to the United States.
Well, that's also part of what's happening right now. And, well, that sale wasn't for nothing. I don't know if this kind of sale will happen, although it's not for right now. I mean, it's an arms sale that's going to happen between now and 2027.
No, but it started back in 2023.
They're saying delivery won't be until 2027. No, there's no way right now. They have too many things going on with the war in Ukraine. But, well, whether you like it or not, the one that's giving the most weapons to Iran right now is Russia. At the end of the day, that's where the issue is, the connection. Let's move on to other important matters as well. There's a report that draws attention talking about these future wars over water. Check out what's happening between Egypt and Ethiopia, right? Let's listen to this message that Al-Sisi gives about the conflict they're having right now with Ethiopia. It's an important topic as well.
This obliges the international community in general, and the African continent in particular, to confront such reckless behavior by the Ethiopian administration, and to ensure the regulation of water release from the dam in cases of drought and flooding, within the framework of the agreement that the two riparian countries are seeking. Downstream, which is the only way to achieve a balance between the real development of the upstream countries and not harming the two downstream countries. Distinguished gentlemen, and if Egypt has chosen the path of diplomacy and has turned to international institutions led by the United Nations, it should be made clear here that this option has not always been a sign of weakness or retreat, but rather an expression of the strength of the position and the maturity of the vision, and a deep conviction that dialogue is the best path and that cooperation is the most effective way to achieve the interests of all the Nile Basin countries without endangering any of them. However, Egypt will not stand idly by in the face of the irresponsible approach taken by Ethiopia and will take all necessary measures to protect its interests and its water security.
Let's see what happened there. I mean, yes, the president of Egypt is talking about a problem they have with Ethiopia. Ethiopia, well, just imagine, I mean, mountainous areas, greener regions, there's plenty of water, rivers run through it, and so on. And those rivers flow through different countries. I mean, they're rivers that extend to various places, including Egypt. And suddenly, Ethiopia says, hey, this water is mine, and I'll send it here and there and start using it. And suddenly that water doesn't reach other countries anymore, right? That water doesn't reach Egypt anymore, for example. So what they say is, wait. I mean, there are rights. You have a right to some water, but you can't take it all from me, right? By nature, water flows through several countries and, well, basically they're asking for that to be respected. Hey, let me say something. And look, another thing. Let's end this topic. I think it's more or less clear now what the issue is about. And that problem repeats itself in many other countries, but there's another huge issue that we need to talk about right away. Let's get to that. Let's go to It's being reported right now that in Kuwait, let's go to the map. In Kuwait, in this region of the world, it's being reported that there are already power plants and desalination plants. They are suffering significant material damage in this area due to Iranian attacks. What are they saying? What do they know?
According to the country's Ministry of Finance, they report today that 2 power plants and water desalination plants have suffered significant material damage after being attacked by Iranian drones, and that 2 power generation units are now either down or out of service. Rather, they also report that this Iranian drone allegedly attacked a government ministry office complex, which we mentioned to you at the beginning, my friend, and that there was also a fire at an oil sector complex in Kuwait. In the Gulf countries, including Kuwait, they have been the target of very strong attacks by Iran in this war. And well, they have only responded in self-defense.
That's what he declared. If there's a fire in the Gulf, what's happening, let's say, in that area? It means they're already reaching civilian infrastructure. While they've been the target of attacks in those countries, they're hitting them. They're hitting them hard. They're about to cut off the water, and your country is a desert. Well, obviously, that's how it is now. As we mentioned, a fire broke out in the Gulf complex, including now, on Iran's part, if this continues, well, the reaction will come sooner or later. It will come from Cuba and from Bahrain, from the United Arab Emirates, from Qatar, but not from Saudi Arabia. Or is the other option that they are so weakened or feel so insecure to attack? Very strong on their part. But anyway, I mean, the fact that today Iran has announced that from now on they will control the strait and that they are the ones. Have they responded or said who can pass and who cannot? It really catches my attention because they are feeling confident on the day they were supposed to reach the agreement, the arrangement. Well, they give this message and it's really something. I mean, it does show that there's something more going on there. Let's move on to other matters. Also,
well, one of the advantages we've had in this era is that we can basically see what's happening in other parts of the world thanks to these satellite photographs. They are really useful for us to compare things. When something happens, when you camp out, etc., but those same weeks, Kuwait's oil fire, it has been the target of very strong attacks from Iran. There are other companies like Maxon, and there are also some Chinese ones whose names I can't remember right now, but one of these companies. A fire has broken out in an oil complex in one of the countries. Kuwait has been the target of attacks from Iran. They have not responded, choosing to remain ambiguous indefinitely. The images show that retroactive to March 9th, 2026, Planet Lab adopted a controlled access model. There has been an incident at an oil complex. The Gulf countries, including Kuwait, have been targeted. Very strong attacks from Iran. They have responded even more. Interés público.
Pues está tremendo. O sea, porque sí, en efecto. O sea, es que a fire has broken out at an oil complex in the Gulf region. Countries including Kuwait have been targets, with the world watching almost in real time. In other times, that would have been, well, unimaginable. What used to be limited to intelligence agencies and the countries with the most advanced satellites is now accessible to everyone.
A fire has broken out at an oil complex in the countries of, including in the OSIT, which is intelligence. What's in X? They share a lot of information. They're saying where the planes are going. This war, they haven't responded to anything else.
How do you do it? O sea, ¿cómo controlas algo? There's an example of that, right? Someone was saying, I think he wasn't an archaeologist or something like that, right? He said, with the information you access as an oil worker from in the Gulf, including Kuwait, target of attacks from the world about a century ago. I mean, if you were the archaeologist from a century ago, you would have the information about the oil fire in Kuwait. They say at that time, back then, you would have to travel all over the world and go to the most important libraries in the world. Some over there in London, others maybe in Egypt, and so on. That's one way to get information about archaeology, for example. And now with your cell phone, you have access to all of that, and you could be at that moment. En aquella época, hace un siglo, ¿no? They haven't answered anything else with the information you have, and all of us who have a cell phone and a bit of internet, that's enough. Para tener la información que te pondrían. Elite complex fire from almost any area just a few years ago, including being a very strong target. Well, now, who's using it for that? Well, a huge minority, right? That's really a matter of awareness over time, right? Because most people now just use it for fun, for memes, right? Like the classic, right? There was a huge, tremendous oil fire that hasn't been dealt with. Greetings to Vicky. She treated us to sandwiches today. That's thanks to the super chat. We really appreciate it. Greetings to the oil complex, tortas, and look, these are sandwiches with avocado. Just letting you know. There have been really strong attacks from this side. There's a video we've been wanting to make for a while now. In this one, and I've only responded in it. These are some sandwiches that, for friends who want to visit Monterrey, if you can, go try those sandwiches. They're sandwiches where each one is like a fire, in Golfo included. Each sandwich has to have an avocado. I mean, it's a must. So they give you the sandwich, and you know, there's one, I mean, avocados are expensive. They've been the target of really strong attacks from the sandwich ingredients, which always have an avocado. Have they responded? At least here in Monterrey, no. Yeah. Well, let's move on to other matters. Produced by Golfo.
Produced by an oil fire from...
There have been strong attacks, and their only response has been...
Sí, tenemos a Meloni. Bueno, Meloni se le cuestiona. There have been strong attacks by Iran on the oil complex in the Gulf countries, including Kuwait, and they have not responded.
They have been the target of attacks, and they have not responded.
There was a fire on a tanker, which has also been attacked several times, including attacks on European allies and NATO.
Very strong from Sigonella. How is our relationship with the US? No response. Look, I still think that geopolitically, Europe doesn't have much to gain, let's say, from a divergence with the United States. But our job is, above all, to defend our national interests, and when we don't agree, we must say so, and this time we don't agree.
After the result of the referendum, there have been upheavals in the government. You have asked for Del Mastro and Santancé to step back.
I continue with the internal geopolitical issues, but speaking of external matters, speaking of this, one of the comments about NATO really caught my attention, right? It's an interesting topic. NATO, or at least the European countries, seem to feel not very united with the United States. But we agree, we have to say it, and sometimes they draw their line and say, well, let's see, move over there. Let's move on to other matters, other very interesting images. Look, I still think that in geopolitics there doesn't have to be a winner, divergence, United States, but
Les vamos a compartir, pero son de parientes.
do you remember these people who today, Marco, we agree with?
Look,
I still think they're going to fire him. They're going to fire him. But the most important thing is so you can see how families can be sometimes. I mean, and it's nothing. If you want to go out, whether it's in a bikini or however you like, just go out and be yourself, United States. But But what stands out is that these families are the ultra-repressive political leaders within Iran. Yes, exactly. National, and we're not. Look, I keep saying that in geopolitics it's about winning, divergence, but it's all about interests. I keep saying image. Well, it's even more intense. I'm just going to imagine it. How is everything else, but let's say from a divergence? The very famous dress of Jennifer Lopez at the Oscars in the United States.
Controvertido el vestido y la nieta.
But it was basically the same dress. Just instead of green, it was purple. And we don't agree. Look, I mean, General Qasem Soleimani, who was the mastermind behind the terrorist groups managed by Iran. Well, the one who was eliminated, just to be clear, he was eliminated in 2020 in Iraq, and that's where the relationship broke. Who benefit from a divergence, Soleimani lives or lived, well, still lives in the United States.
But look,
I follow. The geopolitical side doesn't have to win.
divergence, United States.
Nationals.
Decía, ahí está la...
Porque dices, bueno, okay.
Y ahí está. Es.
But why do you want to, thinking about the country of origin, right? You want, well, for them to cover up, for women to cover their hair. There is no divergence in the United States, but de que no se entiende. Porque aparte, its interests.
And I still think geopolitically it has to win. There's no divergence in the United States, but it's national interests, and we don't agree.
Allá Irán, ¿no? Y,
Ajá, sí, bueno. I still think geopolitics has to win. There's a divergence with the United States, but it's all about interests. Look.
In geopolitics, I still see no differences with the United States.
But national interests, and we don't agree.
Look, if they lived in Los Angeles or in Japan, wherever, but they said, well, we don't agree with the regime, that's why we escaped, that's why we left.
In Angeles.
But if they said, well, we don't agree with the regime, that's why we escaped, that's why it's the opposite of what you find with the regime. Okay, you get it so far, but if they're publicly defending the regime and then leave like that, you wonder, hey, if that's the case?
See, in fact, I remember that we once talked about, I think it was the sister of Khamenei or the president who lost her life, that she was actually speaking out. In Japan, they would say, well, regime, that's why we escaped, that's what we did. Tú vives en Los Ángeles, no vengas.
Bueno, aquí estamos viendo aquí.
Aquí estamos viendo iraníes in Tehran's Revolution Square, the one that has a very interesting structure. And well, basically, it's a mockery of the United States government. Or they would say, not in agreement with the regime. That's why we escaped. That's from the US. And ask Saddam Hussein about 72 hours. Because we have to remember that there was a war between Iran and Iraq. And well, Iraq had a tough time in 72 hours.
Bueno, pues así está el mensaje curioso.
Look, those people there, those are pro-regime. By the way, have Iran's state media also been hitting these power plants now? Or in Japan? These are some of the first images already circulating where you can see those attacks. They would be, I insist, in Kuwait against power plants, against desalination plants. If they take away their water in a desert, it's inevitable that millions of people, Angeles, but they said, in agreement with the regime, at a very complicated time, a very difficult time. So seeing that as well, what's happening to, well, what's going on there? Angeles or Japan?
Del tráfico que se ha estado dando allá en Irán, donde...
But we escaped from that. The minutes keep passing by. We keep waiting for more reactions. So far, there is still no confirmation about the pilot. We'll have to wait and see if in a little while we find out, if they say he was rescued. Obviously, this is something that's still developing, but this was reported by a journalist, right? Is that correct? A journalist in Japan specializes in military issues, and he claims to have direct reports that the pilot has already been rescued but is still inside Iran. Well, not with the regime, we escaped, that's what's assumed at this moment. And well, that also draws attention. Let's move on to other matters, but look, basically what stands out the most is the white attack. From what I'm seeing, without the media, Angeles, or in Japan, they would say, according to the regime, that's why we escaped, that's why we did it.
Subía el petróleo en este lunes que viene.
Imagine, I mean, there are a lot of people watching, well, it's their duty, but there are also a lot of people making an effort. And it's not necessarily that they're rich, it's just that they make the effort. And they go all the way to this part of Asia, basically, or to Japan. But do they escape? Is it because they want to? Or is it a sport, a luxury sport, however you want to see it? But until some time ago, you see, as they say in Angeles, according to the regime, that's why we escaped, that's why we left.
Exactly. An arrest has already been made. 10 people were detained who were allegedly involved in a scam targeting Mount Everest climbers. Basically, what they did was live in Angeles, not according to the regime, that's why we escaped. That's why certain people who were going to climb were given something that made them sick. It made them feel unwell. And with this, they had to talk to Vivier and Angeles, not the regime. That's why they gave us a helicopter to hospital employees based in Kamandu and to the rescue personnel. That's why prices were inflated to such a degree that it's believed they scammed people out of $20 million. With this method they used to operate, companies and individuals are accused of fabricating rescue missions on Mount Everest, presenting documents, or in Japan, but including passenger benefits, medical documents, and other forms as well. No, we avoid that. That's why we say tourism is a strong industry here because of this issue. Since it's not cheap tourism, it's not luxury, but it costs as if it were luxury, right?
Exactly.
It's already known that there are 32 guides who have been accused, and they're identifying at least 4,800 climbers who were taken to hospitals. Just imagine 4,800. This is between 2022 and 2025. A lot of money. Exactly. A lot of money. And well, many probably didn't even realize that they were victims of this situation.
They think, well, they helped us. And yes, the whole thing was expensive, but I don't know. I think what they look at is this one has money, this one doesn't, right? And they go,
there are a lot of controversies when it comes to climbing Everest. There's also the case of a woman who felt sick and one of the Sherpas carried her down. And he wanted to charge her because, well, he had to bring her down and she didn't want them to charge. Like, how could he possibly charge for a rescue? And he said, well, I lost a day of work because now I have to. He left his group, the one he was supposed to take up. And, well, he left his job to bring this woman down. There are many controversies about this topic.
Well, there should be clear rules. I mean, the government itself should set clear rules. Look, a rescue? Well, yes, obviously it's going to happen, but there should also be a charge. Hey, but I don't have the money, then don't take them up. I mean, I don't want to pay for the rescue.
I know, right?
Well, yes, exactly. Pay for the insurance and that's it. The rescue is covered and the Sherpa too, right? The Sherpa gets paid too, right? Yes, the Sherpa. He's going to get paid, right? Exactly. Something has to stop there since too many people are already going up. At this point, well, it kind of loses its meaning, right? Before it was, yes.
You were going to be there alone?
It was news when someone climbed, right? A Chilean climbed the mountain. It's from an audition. Now it's only news when, well, I don't know, like someone who doesn't have a foot, right? And they climbed, right? I mean, someone, because they're very old, right? Like this person climbed and they're already that old, right? Or they climbed walking backwards.
Right, well, or it's about a child.
Not just one, there's a child too, yeah. I mean, let's say now it's like the weirder it is, right? He went up on his hands. He walked up on his hands. Something like that.
But yes, it's like when the Virgin comes to me. Yes, that's right.
Like when the Virgin comes to me.
That's a vow, really.
She went up to fulfill a vow. Yes, she went up like she was fulfilling a vow and on her knees all the way to the hill. Well, that's it. No, that she went up walking. No, well, no, that's not news. I mean, people go up there every day just like they own the place. Let's move on to other topics, and the shepherds go up and down as if.
As if it were nothing. It's no trouble for them.
Let's move on to other matters. Look, Peruvians, by the way, here's a big greeting to the Peruvian community. First of all, well, I don't know why. Suddenly they've tried to stir up controversies. No, it's not Peru against Mexico. No, 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 no. We have nothing to fight about. We have to, well, in any case, well, make friends and do things together. Well, whenever I hear news about Peru, it's either really strange news or really interesting news. And this is a very interesting story that comes from Peru, and they're making history. For the first time in world legal history, a country, Peru, recognizes the legal rights of an insect. El Chapulín, Colorado is just so happy. I mean, El Chapulín, Colorado is the happiest in the world right now. Because, well, now they're being given a right. And today, precisely, we were talking about the lack of insects and the lack of biodiversity among insects. It's super important, and they've been lost. They've been lost. It's as they call it, the students of this subject, it's not a catastrophe, it's something else even more serious. Like an apocalypse, but in the world of insects, so many have disappeared, and honestly, who's going to defend us? I mean, there are people who defend pandas, dolphins, coatis, all of them. Animals are cute, so they get defended, right? But the animals that are considered ugly for one reason or another, well, no, and in general, it's the same with insects. There are some really beautiful insects, but there are others that you just think, why would I want that? Like the darn worm? Well, yeah, but the worm is necessary. It's like an apocalypse. In theory, is it also an insect or not? Doesn't apply, right? No, it's something else, isn't it? This world is so strange, right? Greetings to Caribel and thanks for the message, and also to your husband for the mushroom topic. We mentioned yesterday that he already watched the video. But in the case of insects, well, for the first time, they're going to have someone who recognizes their legal rights. They could even, well, with a legal representative, obviously sue, let's say, a country, for example, right, that isn't respecting them. The municipalities of Satipo and Nauta passed ordinances that recognize these bees as legal subjects with the right to exist, prosper, and be defended in court. This means that any company, person, or entity that harms their colonies or habitat can be sued on behalf of the bees. The legal basis comes from a reform by the Peruvian Congress in 2024 that declared them part of the country's biological heritage. These bees are responsible for pollinating 80%. From a reform by the Peruvian Congress in 24. Biologically, these bees are responsible for pollinating the percent. And well, they say, let's see, we're going to have to set rules for this.
From a reform in 24, it declared them part of the biological heritage, these as well. Now the courts must consider damage to the ecosystem and the species, not just economic losses or less. They are responsible for pollinating percent. Also, besides the economic damages, because the water was affected and people can no longer drink it, well, there is also a reform. Peruvian in 24 declared. These bees, part of the biological heritage, are being affected by pesticides, climate change, and invasive bees.
From a Peruvian Congress in 24, biological heritage of the... Pueden ellos demandar these. I know that maybe some people will find this story boring, but it gives me hope in this world. That suddenly, those responsible for pollinating the story, well, as it says here, who says it? Ruben? Who says it? Ruben, right? He says, insects also help nature. From the reform of the Peruvian 24, he declared it as heritage. They are super necessary, super necessary. Obviously, these bees are responsible for... Dan esperanza que, pues de repente... se tiene algo de conciencia, ¿no? Por este planeta. Bueno, vámonos a otros asuntos importantes.
Pues bueno, el día from the reform of the Peruvian Congress in 24, heritage. These bees are responsible for 80%.
Van afuera.
Víctor Urbán está que le tiemblan las patitas. Hay que recordar que Urbán tiene muchísimo. From Reform Congress Prime Minister, he has extended his term there through underhanded tactics, and well, in 24 he declared of the biological heritage of bees pollinating the percent. It turns out they're going to make changes to the constitution. They're going to limit prime ministers to 2 terms because they've already realized that more than one reform in 24 is what can be done. The elections are on April 12th. They already gave me about a week more or less. And well, for many, they are considered the most important in the country and, well, for the future. These also affect the European Union and NATO. We have to remember that Hungary has basically served to pollinate the center. Russia has been blocking certain payments to Ukraine, certain aid, but Ukraine is always blocked by a Peruvian Congress, and Viktor Orban doesn't even hide this, honestly. I mean, it's pretty cynical. It always has to do with the biological heritage of these. You know that Hungary is one of the poorest countries in the European Union, which at some point is also pollinating the percent. And with Norman Hungary followed by Peak.
We should mention, speaking of countries that are on the rise, about a Congress Taiwan, honestly, which is impressive. It's surprising us even more than previous advances in gross domestic product because the latest data from Taiwan just came out. In 24 heritage, these bees have pollinated the GDP in the last 50 years. I mean, just so we can imagine, it's like a reform of the Peruvian Congress in 24 declared. These are selling like never before. If they already sell more, they're responsible for pollinating 100%. And they don't just design them, they also produce them. So right now, they have the world in the palm of their hand when it comes to advanced technology, because everything depends, let's say, on advanced chips. If there's a reform, 24 of the
Que ojalá que sea un país que la aproveche.
these responsible bees deals with everyone, with all the powers that get along. They're making deals with Taiwan. Thinking about the future, thinking about avoiding, well, also an invasion at some point. By the way, there's an interesting note, and speaking of countries too, right? There's a report from Most World Statistics, this site with all kinds of world statistics, and it shows which drugs, right? Peruvian, he declared. These are the most prevalent ones depending on the country. Afghanistan, for example, heroin, which is very common there, but now they are responsible. Pollinating is the one that's used the most, let's say the most commonly used standard. And you say, well, what's life like in Korea? 100. Really stressed, they have work, 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 and these bees are responsible for 100%. A reform, the Peruvian Congress in 24 declared the country a biological nation of Peru.
No, ya sé, dije que no. Dije, no.
In 24, it was declared part of the heritage. These bees are responsible for pollinating 100%. The reform, which is cheaper and well, it's what people see, I think, declared it part of the country's biological heritage.
Así, y pues la gente va y toma esa decisión.
There are things that are controversial about how much and yes and no, but well, we're not going to get into that topic right now. What's interesting is how it prevails. That's the one you see the most. Responsible for pollination, there it is. That's the one that's repeated the most in every country. I don't know if you want to look at a particular country. I don't think all of them are here, but there's a reform from a country like Ukraine, which is at war. Opioids. Why? Because after injuries, after all those problems, they take an opioid and, well, addictions often remain, right? I guess that could be an explanation, but it needs more study. I'm just looking at it superficially. As for Russia, let's see what it says. Logically, I don't think that's the case. Maybe for superiors, but I don't see it. Peruvian reform of these bees are responsible for pollinating 100.
Sí, no está. Pero a lo mejor no está como Rusia, a lo mejor.
Regarding the reform of the Peruvian Congress, I'm not sure what they called it. Maybe they call it federation or something. I'm not sure. It's not there, right? No, it's not. The information isn't there. Heritage, well, I imagine it's similar to Ukraine's because of the proximity, because of the similar culture they have between them. But who knows? We'll have to check. The United States also has cannabis, and so does the United Kingdom. Pollinate 100. Of a reform of the Peruvian 24 declared of the biological responsible. Of a Peruvian Congress in 24 possible does not always come or not. Well, all countries these bees are by.
¿no? Por ser los productores, o bueno, uno de los productores de la región, ¿no? También tremendo. Bueno, vámonos a los comentarios, vámonos pues. Awesome. Thank you so much to the whole community for commenting, for being here, for chatting. Keep in mind that every Saturday and Sunday, for those who are new, make sure to subscribe. We talk about movies and we talk about series, while we also analyze a bit of the latest reports if anything new comes out. Bees are responsible for pollinating psychiatric medications. It says already 100, these bees are responsible for pollinating. ¿Qué país era?
Venezuela.
Of a biological reform of 24. These bees are responsible for the percent. Saludos de Zapatilla, ¿cómo has estado?
Greetings to Fidel Botello, to Mariano Cercas. How are you, Mariano? To Maria Arapo, and greetings from Montreal. Peruvian 24 declared 100. Reform of the
Peruvian Congress.
24 declared from the country's biological. These bees pollinate the.
No,
A ver, Guillermo. A reform of the. Que la analice.
Congress, let's say more, out of, as they say around here, out of respect. 24 biological heritage. These bees are responsible. Pollinate number 1 and photo number 2 is this one, right? I mean, come on. I mean, percent. Digamos, no, Los Angeles, California. A reform of the Peruvian 24 declared it biological heritage.
They took these away from him.
They killed him just for a bit of his hair showing, yet you defend that while you sit comfortably outside?
They're just parasites who come with money from going to the... No.
No, it's tough. Greetings, says Marcos, that's from the pharmacy. Okay, well, yeah, I imagine, and I suppose there are people who do.
That sell them on the black market, of course. Yeah, exactly, says Brezeka. I don't feel like studying, but you have to. Greetings, says Benjamin Vasquez. One pilot lost his life and the other? No, one was rescued and they're still looking for the other?
Yes, 2. I mean, actually 2 were rescued. One from the A-10, that one already on the Persian Gulf side, and then another from the F-15 was rescued that same day, and a third one, since the F-15 has 2 people, yes. One of them hadn't been rescued up until now, but I insist, it's not confirmed. I mean, it's something we're still looking into, right? He says, I think he's already talking. Now I understand.
Now I understand. He says, greetings, Marcos. Pepe, just imagine how many windows you have open.
That you have open. Yes, no, totally. I mean, a ton. I mean, windows, computer windows. I imagine the computer.
Right? Yeah, could it be?
Yeah. I mean, from all the windows, yeah, right? You're talking about computer windows. Greetings, Testa Patria. How have you been? Very good.
It says, Mariano, greetings. No, it says, behind the lines, friends, I want to check on the case of the pilot lost in Iran. Greetings, Mariano.
Greetings, Mariano. How have you been?
Greetings, Hector Placencia, and greetings, young couple. Greetings, San Antonio, Texas. Thank you for calling me young.
Thank you, Hector. Very good. Thank you so much. He says, how does the war affect Mexico? The prices? In terms of prices? Yes. And the probability that the dollar will go up, which in fact is already going up. I mean, if it goes up a little, maybe it won't cause a big problem. But if it skyrockets, that's where a bigger problem could happen. Yes, it's an oil-producing country, a country that in theory shouldn't have much of a problem with that. But we know that if oil, well, right now the country that produces the most oil in the world is the United States. Is the country that can produce the most oil, thanks to fracking, which has increased its capacity. They have the ability to produce, but that hasn't prevented price increases, which have already been happening. So, well, there's that too, right? Yes, there it is. Patria says, yes, there are a lot. And I pace myself, and as we go along, well, I start wrapping up, because if I overload everything here, that's it. This year, it's also time to upgrade to a slightly faster processor, because yeah, otherwise suddenly things don't work. Let me give you a detail. Look, check out this tip in case anyone is streaming. Sometimes you're streaming and you have a page open. Let's say, for example, this one, Windy, right? And about Windy, notice the difference. This is something else. Look and see how. No, that's the pressure. Yes. Well, that's fine. I mean, for example, just by showing the pressure. No, this one. No,
The particle animations, which would be, well, not here. I don't know why it won't let me put it, but you know how sometimes it has the animated particles. That uses up a lot. I mean, it takes up processing power. So if you have a lot of pages that use up processing power, well, obviously they overload everything here. So I have to keep an eye out to make sure nothing throws weird stuff up, like some map.
Our crowd says, if you install Kakios, it brings your PC back to life. Even having virtual memory helps on old machines. And of course, Linux is the safest. Try installing Kakios and you'll see that it brings your PC back to life.
Kachiros, yes.
Kachiros with Y. He says you install Pablo eating Paquito. Paquito is the pastor. Greetings, greetings. Memory while installing, see what the PC does. Saludos, doctor.
Provecho.
Provecho, sí. Dice doble estándar. Dice. He says, yes, Kakios.
Let's see what the PC does.
Peter Salva says that is, it's possible that he rescued the 3 pilots. It's possible. If tomorrow this 3rd pilot is confirmed, then yes. Exactly. Greetings, Alberto. Greetings, Pepe. Greetings, Alberto.
Greetings. How have you been, Alberto? Hello. Greetings to the whole community who also watch us later. By the way, Beto Barba, how have you been, Beto? Thank you very much, by the way, for the emails. The ones that have been confirmed, they're really good. Well, you know, he makes these things like tanks and all these like tools of war, of conflict. He says that is if this pilot is confirmed.
Well, scale modeling.
Right? Scale modeling, professional military modeling. He says if this pilot is confirmed, well...
No, bueno, vi las otras.
He says, yes, it's great to see you. A huge hello, Luis. Luis Manuel, how have you been? By the way, our grandmother says, she says the good thing about Cachos is that it pilots.
She says,
Confirms this pilot. Well, Peter Salvar says it's possible. If tomorrow the pilot is confirmed, then yes.
She says if the pilot is confirmed, then yes. This 3rd pilot is confirmed, then yes.
How are you, Henry? Today, Henry, how have you seen it, Henry? Great health. Today, Henry, how do you see things in Venezuela? Are they going well? Are they slow? How are things going? Please tell us about it. He says the use of military force in Persian Gulf countries to open the Strait of Hormuz is confirmed. Well, yes. 3rd, well, yes.
Yes, they did it at the UN Security Council.
Yes, they blocked it in the Security Council. We talked about it here, right? Yes.
But on Friday, I think Thursday or Friday.
Yes, we talked about it. Yes, that's right, Luis Manuel. I mean, they've really agreed on that topic, that they just don't want the conflict to continue, right? They don't want it to go on, right? All right, great. All right, I'll share it right now. Let's look at Beto's images.
He says, greetings to Oscar Flaco, who says, dear ones, bless you. Thank you very much, Oscar. Greetings to Neri C. If all the countries say that channel opens, so it opens and opens, says Neri.
Greetings, Neri. And I say Iran already gave the first sign when it allowed a French ship to pass, right? Well, that also draws attention. Beto also shared something with us. I forgot to tell you. You know, we recently talked about a basic survival guide. If you like the video, we can see that from the positive comments. We would like to make a second part based also on the information you sent us. Because there are people who are very professional, who are well prepared, and who send us data, who send us information about how. For example, Beto sent us something that I really liked, Beto, from what you sent. It's a good part of what you sent us, just like you noticed, the briefcase, which I don't know where you got it from, but it's really great. Wow. Yeah, but that's a really pro briefcase. Look, I'm going to show you what the briefcase is like. Look. It's this one. Let me try putting it here. What?
Oh, you really outdid yourself.
It's super pro, yeah.
No, it's super. Look, here's the photo. It's really big. It's really big.
In a bit, later on.
The girl?
The girl, let's go this way.
Yeah.
What else?
What else? Well, let's see. Greetings to Catherine, who says it's the same in Venezuela. Inflation doesn't stop. Let's see. Inflation doesn't stop. We're seeing a slow recovery. Thank you very much, Catherine.
Regards.
Thank you. Regards to Yustel de Maurici and the ARC-3DX. Regards, architects. Regards to Mariano Ceja as well. To Marcela. Marcelo says regards, ADG here from Brazil. And also regards to Rafael Lunes and Manuel Echeverria. It says, good evening, Catherine Pepe. I have a book, Dramatic Prophecies of the 21st Century by Teodosio Paz. And it's incredible how he narrates like a documentary, all those events that we are living through. And it's terrible, and there are still more to come. Well, let's see, Manuel. Let's see how the book is. We'll look for it and see how it is. Greetings, says Catherine. Catherine. Greetings, Catherine. Greetings to Henry Carvajal. She says, here in Venezuela, we're moving at a snail's pace. We see the things that happen as very diminished. Everything is the same. Salaries. We're moving forward without much hope. Henry says, I know the situation has improved despite, well, the situation between the United States and Venezuela is still the same. Everything is slow. No salaries. I mean, no raises or anything. Greetings to Beto Barba. He says, it's for tools. Ah, okay. It's just that it's airtight. I just took advantage of it. Oh, well.
You adapted well today. It was very creative.
Yes, very good.
It looks really good. I'm going to give it a few clicks. There it is. It has water as a tip for the community that's making their own kit. And this was mentioned to me by an expert from the Red Cross. He told me you need to change the water regularly. I can't recall if it's every 2 months or so, but yes. You have to keep in mind that if you have stored water, you need to keep changing that water. Because he says even if it's purified water, there are always tiny microbacteria and they grow over time. If you leave it for months, you'll see the water get cloudy. So, well, just so you keep it in mind, right? Here are some of them. Look, that's like a kind of lamp with a flash, right? Well, that's great. I imagine that's a whistle, right? I've seen it in camping stores. This must be like a whistle, like you blow and it opens. What's it called? I think so, but I'm not sure because I've seen them there. And honestly, I haven't asked. I love those stores, but there's no time to see everything. Look, there's the whole case. Everything that fits in it. It's impressive. It's really cool. Plus, it's airtight. It can take hits. It can handle anything. It's really cool. Now we were going to take the photos. It's just that I had forgotten. These pictures are really good, but let's send them out. Let's see the photos of the tank models he makes. Check out what Beto does. It's like something out of a movie. Just imagine, this is something he created, right? I mean, he painted it, he drew it, he put it together. I mean, come on, this is really crazy. There it is, just look at that. Well, it's like something you could make an animation out of, Beto. An animation that's super, super crazy. He did a stop motion, right? It's really cool, really cool. Look at the details. Crazy, it's just crazy. Look at the pants and their little wrinkles.
Pants?
Well, yeah, this is really crazy. There it is. Awesome. So you'll make your own museum someday, right? Where can we see it in person? It's really cool. Awesome. Thank you so much, Beto, for sharing. If any of you have a trade you'd like to share here, please send us the photos, right? And we're available by email.
He says we're getting a high output conflict in a microwave since you put laptops and cell phones inside and they're not affected by PM attacks. Yes. And nuclear explosives. Regards.
Solar storms, for example, too, right? I mean,
the earthquake. Shout out to Marcel Sanchez from Venezuela.
You're right. I've seen it. They hit like that. I remember now. It's like a flint. Yeah, I mean, you hit it 3 times and the spark comes out. You're right. Thanks for this.
I don't know. I have no idea who I am.
I have no idea who I am.
Greetings. Greetings to Marcel, he says, from Venezuela. Caracas. Blessings to all of you for your success in your work. Please, I ask for prayers for my country, says Marcel. Greetings, Marcel.
Greetings. Thank you very much. You are absolutely right. So, a big shout out.
He says we need to make the kits. Greetings to Marte.
Greetings to do. Please. Totally new. Here it is. What materials? Asks Tapatia Beto. Let's see if you can tell us. No, I think the tanks and all that. I mean, what material will it use? Good question.
Tapatia says, never leave water in the sun. Water jugs should never be exposed to the sun because of bacteria.
Yes. And the plastic too. I mean, the plastic degrades and causes all kinds of issues too.
Marcos Herrera is like that, but he's realistic.
Thanks so much for the super chat, Italo.
Greetings. Thank you very much. Greetings. Greetings to Juan Gabriel, who is watching us from Panama City. Greetings. She says, our grandmother, for a conflict, it's ideal to have Wikipedia on a USB, like the whole page of conditional information and even pharmacology. What's cool about Wikipedia is that it gives you that option. Greetings to Neri Pepe. If Iran blocks the channel needs to be controlled.
It's done. Yes, it's done beautifully.
But that channel, they control the tides of the sea. I didn't understand. Greetings, Neri.
Greetings, Neri. How have you been? Hello?
Greetings to Santa Rene, guys. Greetings, Italo.
Greetings.
Luis says, greetings from Spain. It's a pleasure to watch your show. Hugs.
Greetings. Thank you very much. A big hello over there in Spain. How are things over there, Luis? Darman says one was diverted and another crashed on its own. He says one was diverted and another crashed on its own, says Darman. Greetings, Darman. How have you been? He says the models, just to give you an idea, a human measures 5 centimeters. They're made of plastic, mostly resin and metal. Okay, there's the answer to the question. Thank you. Greetings. Icon, what's up? Hello.
Greetings to Walter Antonio Torres. Greetings from Venezuela. Rublox to Roble. How is Roble? What's up, Roble? Carlos Martinez. Also Antonio Torres. Francisco Arce. Neo Roth. And also greetings to Reddy. Reddy, I think it's Freddy, but it says Reddy F. Ramirez. Greetings.
Look, this is an image that's circulating right now from Iran, where that thing you're seeing there is a helicopter that they're apparently searching for. Well, the special forces who rescued him and are bringing back the pilot. So yeah, it was known that they were going to use the night, right? Obviously, that's one of the ways they usually do rescues, right?
To the soldiers, yes, greetings to Sebo, and also to Jesus Manuel. Greetings, Jesus.
Hello?
What's up, Walter Verena? How are you? And to Gabriel Duran Castro also. And now let's go to Guillermo Vegandino.
What's up? Greetings, Edilche, all the way to Panama. Hello. Oscar Flaco, how have you been? Hello. Our grandmother says to download everything offline like Wikipedia. The project is called Kiwix, and in this one, you put essential information for a conflict, she says. So you put essential information for a conflict there, and that's how you download the information, and all those topics are included, or how does it work? Kiwix, I'm going to check it out, right? Let's see how it is. Thank you, our grandmother. That's a great tip. We have to add that one. The next video in the guide.
Survival, yes. Greetings to Jesus Garcia, who is excellent, original news, and unfiltered. Thank you for being real, not fake. Greetings.
Jesus.
Greetings to Orval Munoz, who says we are only a Judeo-Christian civilization, whether we like it or not. Greetings.
Hello, Orval. How have you been? Hello there.
Also, greetings to Sandra Mourinho, who doesn't greet me. How are you, Sandra? To Bautico. And greetings from Israel. Greetings, Bautico.
Hey, Bautico. How are things in Israel? What's your take?
Big greetings. Walter, I was looking at a family photo. We didn't share it since they are minors. They were celebrating Passover. And they are, well, despite the bombings, they are in their living room, all at the big table. And they say that from a certain date, some houses or the houses that are built are missile-proof. So many people don't even need to go to a shelter.
I mean, they're really well prepared now.
Yes, from a certain date in certain years back, they do have to have a shelter by law, but others don't. Greetings to Marcel Sanchez, and I'll be waiting for you in Venezuela. It's just a little longer until we're completely free. Greetings, Marcel. Greetings.
Greetings, greetings, big greetings.
Very good. Maria says, did you see the survival kit under the pilot's ejection seats? They're incredible. Didn't we see it, Maria? No. Humberto Gas says, so the worst is coming on Monday?
But I did know they had a kit there and that they have everything in it. They have maps of the area. I mean, they send them well prepared. Prepared, of course.
This Humberto says that on Monday, well, in theory, the worst is coming. Let's see if it turns out like, oh, they didn't call me and that they want a ceasefire just to think about it for 10 days. That would be too much, right? Greetings to Artur Plaza and also to Pepe for the information. See you always. Blessings. Greetings to my wife, the little girl. Greetings.
Greetings to the little girl as well. And a big shout out to Joel.
Greetings to Dieguito. Alberto.
To Uranio, how have you been? Greetings to Reynosa. Hello there. Greetings also to Mario Coelho. Greetings, how have you been? Dieguito, how are you? How have you been? What's up? Arturo Plaza, greetings as well. Neri, how are you? Alberto Sonia Hebrezike, a huge shout out. What else?
Greetings to Joel Pedroza, who doubts they're rescuing the pilot. We'll see tomorrow. After all, right now, everything is just speculation. There are images, but there's still no image of the actual rescue yet.
No. I mean, this comes from a military journalist, Buenaverde. The name and everything is in the description if you want to check it out. And well, let's see what happens. After all, like I said, this is developing information.
Yes, greetings also to Oscar Flaco. And if my son wants to say hi, greetings to Oscar Flaco's son.
Greetings to Oscar Flaco's son. How are you?
He says, greetings. Hebreze is tough. He must have food for several days, a compass, and a radio. Yes, he has a special radio to report where he is, where he's located.
Greetings, how have you been? And Italo, Real Madrid. Well, let's go.
Let's go, guys. Remember that we're on WhatsApp and Telegram, but there's the Telegram QR code so you can scan it from your phone.
So, you know what? Our movie recommendation.
Well, we're going to recommend a series that we started yesterday. It's called
All Mankind.
All Mankind. It would be called All Humanity, right? No, For All Mankind.
For All Mankind, which is what would have happened if Russia got to the moon first.
How does everything change?
How does everything change? Well, it's very interesting. It has good actors. It's good. It's entertaining. I think you're going to like it. At least many people in the community. I think they're going to like it. We're also watching, well, we watched a movie called No, which I hadn't seen. It was on my list. Chilean. It's a Chilean movie about that moment when it was decided not to continue with the dictatorship and all that. Check it out and see what you think. It's interesting. Gael Garcia acts in it. And well, it's a good script, at least interesting, and I think it deals with a topic that's somewhat known in Latin America, Spain, and around the world, I think. So it's interesting. We also watched the first episode of a movie, a series called Monarch: Legacy of Monsters. It surprised me. Honestly, I saw that it had good reviews, but I was surprised that even though it's a possible topic, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. There are some good Godzilla ones, by the way, but I was surprised that the plot is really good, that they're not just based on having good effects, but they really focused on having a good plot, at least in the first episode. I haven't seen the whole series, so I'll have to give it a chance and see how it is. And, well, I don't know if we watched anything else around there. Well, we already talked about that last week, right? The movie we went to see at the theater.
The one about Project Hail Mary, which, by the way, one of the astronauts who is currently on Artemis said it was amazing, right? I highly recommend it.
Well, this actor, what's his name? The lead actor?
Ryan Gosling?
Ryan Gosling interviewed one of the astronauts, right? He asked them some questions there, obviously because of the movie, right? Greetings to Mario Falcon and Diego Diaz. Also big greetings. And supposedly 48 hours to hell. Well, that would be tomorrow, right? I mean, well, yeah, tomorrow, 48 hours, right? No, Monday.
Monday, right?
Monday? Monday morning would supposedly be 48 hours. It's gonna be maybe the worst week for oil this coming week. I highly doubt they'll be able to control the price. Well, anyway, look, during the day we'll be sending short reports, but tomorrow we'll be here broadcasting early. Take care, have an excellent weekend. See you tomorrow. We watch their usual programming. Thank you for
tuning into the truth.
This is Pepe Lev.
The truth is intense, pure. The unusual is real, pure. Here we analyze it from a global perspective. Don't miss out. Tune into the channel Pepe Live, in control of the airwaves. Pepe Live, telling it like it is. Raw journalism, here it's respected. Turn on alerts, don't lose track. Until next time, yes sir. We're taking attendance. Suscríbete. Pepe Live in the house. Subscribe.